Hello, Buddy Crow here, and this is another video where we're going to compare the differences between the censored and uncensored versions of Williams Pinball in a Pinball FX3. In this video, we're going to be looking at Table Pack 3, which contained Theater of Magic, the Champion Pub, and Safecracker. Now, before we go any further, I have to say that if you are playing this game on a console like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, or the Switch, you are definitely playing these censored versions. As far as I know, there is no way to turn that on and off. I am playing this on Steam, and on Steam, you can turn family mode on or off, or enable or disabled. And I think by default it is disabled, which means you do play the uncensored versions, but you do have the options to censor them if you want. And that is how I got all the footage for this video. I basically played them censored and uncensored and took screenshots. But also, before we continue looking at the first table of Table Pack 3, Theater of Magic, I do have some corrections to make in previous videos. So in the first video, one of the tables we talked about was Medieval Madness and all the changes in there. And you might remember that the DMD I pointed out had said censored in the censored versions when you were fighting the dragon, when the dragon roasted the knight, or when the knight beheaded the dragon. Instead, the word censored had come up. And at the time, I was under the impression that Zen Studios was the one that had made these changes. But somebody in the comments had pointed out that Medieval Madness had its own family mode, and I didn't know that. So to check this out, I actually went back into Pinball Arcade and went into the operators menu, set family mode to on in that, and sure enough, the same censored graphics appeared on the DMD. So that is not something that Zen Studios did. It's still something that's in the game, but it is actually something that's in the pinball machine by default. It's just that in the Pinball FX version, if you're playing this with family mode enabled, it defaults to the family mode in the game as well. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that in the second video, which was the last video, for the table, the party zone, there were a lot of censorship done to the artwork for one of two things. One, it was either women's cleavage or alcohol. So the mugs of beer or everything that was in on the playfield were changed to green. To be green, green soda, and I kept calling it Green River. And it turned out there was actually more censorship on the table than I had pointed out. I missed like a glass here or there, or a cleavage being removed here or there. I think it was maybe one or two of each, and I'm not going to go into pointing them out here because there was just so many. That video went on and on, just pointing out all these little details that they had changed. And just know that there were just one or two that I missed in that video. And it's kind of pointless to kind of go through all the trouble to point it out here again, just because there's just so much of it to begin with, and you get pretty much the idea of what they censored. So now that all the cleanup from the previous videos is completed, let's move on to our first table here, the changes made to Theater of Magic. So Theater of Magic has only had one change made, and it's on the back box. So here we are looking at the back box. Let's zoom in at the magician, the lady magician, presumably. But let's pull in the uncensored version, and you can see what they've done is they've kind of made her dress so it doesn't expose any cleavage whatsoever. Now this change is kind of really obvious, but on the other hand, you're not really going to be looking at the back box while you're playing the game at all. So it's only the kind of thing where if you like looking around the table that you're going to notice it. So it's again disappointing that cleavage is gone, but again, you're not really going to miss it all that much either, just playing the game. But that's it for Theater of Magic. Alright, the second table we're looking at here is the Champion Pub, and this has had a ton of changes made to it. At least 4 of them on the back box alone, so let's get started with that. We're looking at the back box. Let's zoom in, and you can kind of see these dancing shadows of these dancing ladies in the back. Well, this is the censored version. Let's pull in the uncensored version, and you can see that they're still in the shadows in the uncensored version, but what they've done in the censored version is they've completely eliminated any detail whatsoever, so they're just black silhouettes. whereas in the censored version you can see some detail if you look hard enough. It's kind of one of those changes where I don't think it was really necessary at all. Kind of crazy that they went through all the trouble just to shadow everybody out just so you can't see any details at all. But that's there. So let's move on to the next change. Let's look at the second thing changed in the back box. Let's zoom in on this guy right here. He's just standing there watching the fight. Well, this is the censored version. What was changed? Let's pull in the uncensored version, and we can see that he used to have a cigarette in his mouth. So, of course, along with alcohol and cleavage, smoking cannot be in the censored versions of these tables to meet with the RCB rating. So, it was eliminated. So, well, yeah, second change. And now we're looking at the back box again for the third change. Let's zoom in on this waitress holding the tray of drinks. I bet you already know what the change is here. So let's just pull in the uncensored version. Of course, you can see that it was indeed alcohol before, but instead what they've done was they changed the beer color to a green, and added more bubbles to make it look like soda. Again, I've called it Green River in past video. But I was also thinking it could be DNL, if you remember that. The reverse 7-Up was green. I don't remember how long ago that was. Anyway, I'm a little bit off topic. But again, they've just made it more soda or comic-y. Obviously not beer at all anymore. Cannot have alcohol in these censored tables, according to the ESRB. And it wouldn't be surprising to see more of these changes coming up in this table. But for now, let's move on to the next thing. Alright, we're looking at the back box again for the final change. Let's zoom in, way in this guy, way in the back, and he's got himself a drink with bubbles coming out of it. And again, if you remember, like 3 seconds ago, let's pull in the uncensored version, and you could tell he had a nice foamy beer. Well, what they've done is they've removed the beer and added bubbles, and you also get another kind of shot at that girl in the background. They kind of silhouetted out too, but yeah, they removed that beer. So let's move on to the next thing. And now we're looking at about mid-play field, and if we zoom in a little bit to the right over there, we can see a whole mess of beer mugs. And let's see, there's 3 that are lit, for each representing one of the targets. There's one by the lock, complete targets to light lock illuminated sign there. And then you can kind of see a little bit down, there's looks like a drink being thrown and being splattered across. And if you notice, everything here is green, because presumably in the censored version here, it's all soda. But of course, if we bring in the uncensored version, you can see it's all yellow beer. So yeah, even the lights, it even illuminates differently. So that's a little bit of a, change there. If lights are illuminating, changing colors can be a little bit distracting, I guess, if you know what the original color is supposed to be. And of course, you can even see that in the uncensored versions, the beer has foam as well. And they've removed that foam from all of the censored Green River DNL soda that they've changed it to. But you know what? There's even more beer to be changed. So let's move on. And right now we're looking at the lower playfield, and there are several changes made here. But for now, let's zoom in on the right slingshot. We can see a waitress here. And there are 2 things that have been changed here. Do you know what they are? One should be obvious. Well, 2 should be obvious, really. But let's bring in the uncensored version. And the most obvious thing is that beer has been changed, mostly because that's what I've been talking about for the last few changes. So the beer has been changed to, again, the green soda. The foam off the beer has been removed, but also the lady's cleavage has been removed entirely as well. So yeah, these are pretty much standard changes that we've seen in the past. So let's move on to the next one. And again, we're looking at the lower playfield, but this time let's zoom in on the left slingshot. Here's another lady here. One change has been made. I bet you know what it is. Here's the uncensored version, and her cleavage has been removed. Again, same change as before, just on a different lady. So let's move on. And we're back to the lower playfield again. Now this one's a little bit hidden, so let's zoom in all the way to the left over here. You can see underneath the rail, there are a couple of guys playing poker. But let's pull in the uncensored version. And if you kind of look really hard, that guy in the purple suit, he had a cigar in his mouth. I presume it's a cigar with smoke coming out. Well, that has been removed in the censored version. Again, no smoking. So let's move on. And this time we're looking near the upper playfield around where the boxer is. And to the right of the boxer, really the heavy bag as we were looking at here now, there's a couple of guys. Let's zoom in on those guys. What has changed here? Well, let's pull in the uncensored version. And you see that guy in the purple suit and the beard had a beard. Well, it's like he had half a beard because of the way the plastic was cut there. But again, they removed that, so that guy has no beard. And it's like one of those things that you would miss. This is like one of those easily missed kind of things. So let's move on to the next thing. And we've moved to the other side of the heavy bag. There's a piece of plastic there. Let's zoom in on it with another couple more guys there. And the guy in the green has had something. It changed. What is it? Well, let's pull in the uncensored version. And he had a very, very tiny cigarette, it looked like. And it wasn't even smoking. But, well, they removed the cigarette. Another one of those things that's very easy to miss, I feel. So let's move on. Alright, so this is one of those changes you can't see unless you're actually fighting a boxer. So you can only see this in-game when the boxer himself turns around to reveal himself. But on the left side of the boxer, you can see there's a whole bunch of people there. And you can see that, well, you can probably tell what has been changed because one of them's kind of holding a mug of soda. But yeah, bring in the uncensored version, and that was originally a mug of beer. Well, the beer didn't have foam on it, so at least they didn't change that. They just changed the color of the beer to green, and that's the change there. Moving on. Alright, so on the right side of the boxer, same thing with the boxer turned around and everything, there's supposedly another change, but I have nothing to compare it to. Supposedly something was removed from one of the characters in the right side. We're zoomed in on it now, but I don't know what it is. I've looked at the censored and uncensored version, and there was no change whatsoever. The only thing I can guess is maybe where the shoulder or an arm of the boxer is concealing something. But here's the thing, is I've looked on the internet for real pictures of the real machine, and I can't get a good view of what's there or what's not there because the boxer is always in the way. So again, there may be something changed here, there may be not, I don't know. Did somebody have a cigar moved, a cigarette removed, the beer removed? Who knows, because we can't see it. So let's actually move on to something we can see. And the final change I'm going to show here for the Champion Pub is the mini game that is the poker night game that you would play. When it's lit, you would actually go and select your cards, and then based on your hand, after you've played your hand, you would win either points or light jackpots or some other rewards. But that mini game has actually been removed, or well, altered. You can still light poker night and you can still get poker night, but you're not allowed to play poker night. What it does rather is it just kind of shows you your hand and you win a random award. So rather than being able to play poker night, you're just given a reward instead. So that's the change there. Well, that's all the changes I'm going to show you, but there was also a note saying that various voiceovers with pertinent content were altered or removed or something. But to be honest, I played for a while censored mode and I don't know what was removed. And more interestingly, one of the boxers, Dan Unda, makes very rare appearances in the game. And one of the first games I played in Censored, Dan Unda showed up as one of the first characters, and he said this.
Ow! Now I'm pissed!
And that was in the censored version. So that was in there. I don't know what was taken out or altered. So let's just move on from the Champion Pub and move on to Safecracker. And like Theater of Magic, Safecracker doesn't have too many things altered, so this will go by pretty quickly. So the first thing is we're looking at the playfield. Let's zoom in on this cop right here. He's standing there and he's thinking of donuts and coffee, but let's pull in the uncensored version. And he also had a cigar in his mouth. So maybe in the censored version, he should be dreaming about cigars as well. So again, one of those things where, again, cigars not allowed, removed. Let's move on to the next thing. And for the final change we're going to show in this video, we're looking at the lower playfield of Safecracker. Let's zoom in on that left slingshot. We can see a cop here. He's actually holding a gun. I'm surprised that's allowed. And he's sitting on a pile of money. And let's pull in the uncensored version. We see he was pretty much sleeping on a pile of money with a cigar in his mouth. Well, I'm guessing that he was sleeping. It seems like he's sleeping. I guess he could just be relaxing, because it's not really safe to be sleeping with a cigar in your mouth, I think, or especially not holding a gun. And I guess that's actually some of the humor of this, the fact that he's a cop and he's sleeping with holding a gun and a cigar in his mouth. I think it's funnier that way, but again, well, it's still funny because he's sleeping with a gun in his hand in the censored version. But again, no cigarettes allowed, or cigars rather allowed, so that was removed. And that's pretty much it. Now, like the Champion Pub, there was also a note saying that there were various voiceovers, I guess, removed or altered. I'm not sure. But again, I played it in censored mode. I'm just not sure what those lines are, so I'm not going to be able to showcase them here. So I suppose we could wrap up this video now. So that's it. Those are the changes between the censored and uncensored versions of Theater of Magic, the Champion Pub, and Safecracker. If you liked this video and you made it this far, make sure you do like the video. And if you made it this far and you haven't yet subscribed, I do recommend subscribing, because I do have more videos like this. I've done censored videos, parts 1 and 2, and also an introduction to explain a little bit more detail of that. And there are other videos as well, including a gameplay of specific tables in Pinball Arcade, Pinball FX3, and Zaccaria Pinball. And there will be many more videos to come. So thanks for watching.